What up, and welcome to a little Marsh Pod takeover for the SWBA draft. We're doing a live reaction from today's draft. We do not have footage from inside Barclays Center because I don't know why. There's people with big ideas and big agendas that won't let us in the room, but we're still keeping tabs on everything. So right here, we're going to be going through the entire first round of the SWBA draft. And unfortunately for you, you're stuck with yours truly and yours truly only. So my propaganda train continues to leave the station. I see my number one hater in the building. What's up, Coach Trayton? Let's just make sure this doesn't become like a Kendrick Perkins, Bill Simmons beef where someone's sitting in the back of their car recording a video about the other person. I think if we avoid that, we'll be just fine. I'm stoked to have it. If you guys have some thoughts, drop them into the chat. We will be keeping tabs on that. A couple of housekeeping items. We are very, very close to the start of the draft, just a couple minutes away. A couple notes that we just want to make sure everyone's up to speed on in this draft. So 1 minute. It is a quick draft. The SWBA is adjusted at 1 minute for each team to make a pick. Although, if we're being quite honest, we always say the 1 minute or 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever it might be. It always feels like it moves just a touch longer than that. So should only have 1 minute for each team to take a pick. There have been a number of trades. So there's been, what you might have seen from the last mock draft that came out just a couple of days ago from ESPN. There's been some changes to that from some draft or some trades that took place. So quick recap. Take notes if you feel the need to. We will have all of this on our little iPad, so you don't have to, but take notes if you so desire. So, of course, back in June 17th, number 23 overall pick went to the New Orleans Pelicans. For that, for just that quick moment. We'll get more to that. The Pacers moved out from that one. Of course, the Kevin Durant trade takes place. That gives the number 10 pick to the Phoenix Suns, so they will be picking at number 10. Number 40 overall, this is just going to be the first round of this draft. On live, we will see a full reaction and a full breakdown of every single pick. Number 40 does go to the New Orleans Pelicans. Number 22, that goes to the Brooklyn Nets. They now have 5 first-round picks in this draft. The expectation is they could very well become the first team ever to use 5 first-round picks in this draft. So they have number 22. They got that in the Kristaps Porzingis deal. Again, we won't see the Pacers take this, but they got number 38. The Mark Williams trade, that is Charlotte at number 29 now as Mark Williams heads to Phoenix. So Phoenix gets number 10 and then gets out of number 29. Memphis will be picking at number 11, and then Portland will be picking at number 16. They made that swap that includes some future first-round picks, 2028. Memphis gets that one or sends it to Portland, and then 2 second-round picks. The biggest stunner, number 13 in the hands of the New Orleans Pelicans in exchange for the number 23 pick and a unprotected 2026 first-round pick. A stunning trade. I don't know how this one makes any sense. If you're New Orleans, you are moving up 10 spots and giving up an unprotected first-round pick with a roster that there's a lot of question marks. Is Zion going to be healthy? Is number 13 going to be a difference maker this class? It's got a big group of stars at the top. It's got a pretty large second helping of good players in the middle there. But as number 13, you just lost CJ McCollum. You brought Jordan Poole in. And now you're giving up a first-round pick next season. That's it. That's a dangerous gamble. Number 18, that goes to the Utah Jazz, while number 21 heads to the Washington Wizards, as well as the number 43 first-round pick, and then the number 24 pick, that's going to be in the hands of the Sacramento Kings as they acquire it from Oklahoma City for a number 16 or a top 16 protected first-round pick next season. A lot of movement. All of that is going to be coming out here in the next couple of minutes as we roll on. That's our housekeeping. Again, 1 minute for everything. That we are 1 minute per team as we go through this draft. We'll take a quick look. Our phone's ringing more. Not for me. I sure hope they're not ringing for me. Let's see. Shout out to the folks that are joining us here. We got Coach Pope. We got Jordan Scott. 5 picks is crazy. I'm surprised that Brooklyn's not trying to package those, but all signs are indicating that they're not. We got Pluto. We got Red Bud. I know that y'all have your what is it, screen names and the other ones. I just can't. There's too many names out there. I can't keep normal names track, let alone your screen name. But we got Tyler Bowman in there, Javarian Hillington. Happy to have you guys in here. Really excited to get this thing rolling. Over in Brooklyn, they're about to get this thing rolling. As soon as we get the thumbs up, we're watching from afar. What do we expect, right? We're expecting it to be Cooper Flagg number 1. We're expecting it to be Dylan Harper number 2. After that point, there's a lot of question marks. There's been plenty of scuttlebutt, if you will, at number 3. Is it going to be Jalen Snow, who it kind of felt like a lock? I talked about this with Rico and Sniper J. Felt like a lock that Jalen Snow was going number 3. Doesn't seem that way anymore. Could be Cooper Kingy Cross potentially at that number 3 spot. But we have the first pick in, and it is going to be, just as we expected, Cooper Flagg going to the Dallas Mavericks with the number 1 pick in the SWBA draft. This is what we expected. Cooper Flagg is the type of difference maker the Mavericks hoped for. Almost universally considered, unanimously considered, the best pick in this draft is Cooper Flagg to the Mavericks. You lose Luka Doncic, and the basketball gods reward you for dealing away. But what does the player give you? It gives you a 6'11", 220-pound, talented, athletic forward, a guy that can stretch the floor, great playmaker, passes the ball well for others, defensive stalwart. This is a guy last season in the Olympic Games, the Olympic tune-up games for Team USA, where Cooper Flagg was dominating against SWBA talent. He's an intelligent basketball player. He's the type of can't-miss piece that pretty much everybody was wishing they had a shot at. Well-regarded as number 1. There's no surprise that he's going number 1. We knew this was coming the moment the lottery happened, and now you've got a really interesting summer ahead for Dallas. What do they do with Kyrie, who they've just signed to an extension, or they're going to sign to an extension? Anthony Davis coming back. There's a lot of holes on this roster, but the future is secured for now, as the 1 minute on the clock has wound up there for the Dallas Mavericks, for the San Antonio Spurs, who are now, we're told, the pick is in, and we'll just wait for that beautiful chime. There it is, right on cue. And that number 2 pick is going to be Dylan Harper out of Rutgers. Again, not a shock. This is a draft class that we expected at number 1 and number 2 to pretty much be a lock. In the metrics that we've got over at ESPN, the best player available score, call it a BPA, Dylan Harper clocks in at a 66. If you're going up to 1.66, whatever you want to do it. Really talented. Maybe the 3rd best player if you talk to a lot of people in this class, but if you talk to the San Antonio Spurs, what are you getting? You're getting a guy that you can play next to Cooper Flagg, who's going to be flawless next to not next to Cooper Flagg, Victor Wembanyama. Great shooter. Showcased that at Rutgers time and time again. He's a great playmaker with the ball in his hands. He checks pretty much every box. What box does he not check? This is a little bit of need for improvement on the defensive end, but when you've got Victor Wembanyama behind you, that doesn't really matter. For a guy like Dylan Harper, you can play next to De'Aaron Fox at 6'6". Now, you probably don't want to get too much smaller with this group and force Dylan Harper to play the wing at 6'6". But there's really a pathway, and especially a pathway that is enabled by a guy like Victor Wembanyama. You can go small with this team if you say, hey, let's go get another shooter. Because keep in mind, the San Antonio Spurs, they're picking again at number 14 in this class. And I believe, as I'm checking the draft, and then at number 38. So they're going to have another shot here in the lottery. Who do they go out and get? Who do they try to bring in? But now you've got Dylan Harper, you got Victor Wembanyama, you got De'Aaron Fox. And that's a really good 3-piece to build from. And if you see maybe some dramatic improvement from Dylan Harper, this is a case De'Aaron Fox becomes susceptible. 1 minute has ended, so we are told the pick is in for the Philadelphia 76ers. It is indeed, and it's going to be Trey Turner out of Tennessee. So the Philadelphia 76ers, they pass on Jalen Snow, they pass on Cooper Kingy Cross, and they bring in the sharpshooter Trey Turner. They're going to hold on to that number 3 pick, and they get a guy that's rated 70%. Again, this is, number 1 player in the draft. It's 0.7 is not really a great number to go from. But Trey Turner, regarded as the best shooter to enter the SWBA, really since Stephen Curry. I've talked to some folks. They said if we had a scale of 1 to 10 on which we could grade Trey Turner as a shooter, he's a 13. He is that dangerous from deep. Now, where does he potentially go? In terms of upside, that's a great question because he's not a great ball carrier, but you got Tyrese Maxey, you got Jared McCain. If you keep Joel Embiid healthy, and if you can get a good season out of Paul George, I think this is a really big one. We've got some folks hoping for CKC to the Wizards in the chat. The Wizards at number 6, they would really need a little bit as we're checking in here. Not a lot of breaking news in terms of what are we breaking down with Trey Turner. A lot of question marks. Do you trade back? A lot of question marks if you could have packaged that pick and move up. If I'm Philadelphia, you're getting a guy that you know is going to space the floor for this team. He's a really talented 6'5" guard. He doesn't get you bigger. There's still going to be a question mark of what are you going to do at the number 4 spot because Paul George is probably starting at the 3. You're probably doing Maxey and McCain in the backcourt. But you got a lot of offense now on this team, and I also think this sets you up pretty well long term. Maybe Joel Embiid doesn't work out because, geez, we don't know about it, as the pick is in at number 4, and that's going to be Cooper Kingy Cross to the Charlotte Hornets. So Buzztown is rolling as Cooper Kingy Cross does not fall to his hometown Wizards. He goes at number 4 to the Hornets. It's LaMelo Ball. It's Cooper Kingy Cross. This is a big move, and this you can make the case right now. The biggest show in town is no longer LaMelo Ball for the Charlotte Hornets. The biggest show in town is that man, CKC, an absolute dominant player. He's the best playmaker in this class, pretty much bar none, although Dylan Harper and Jalen Snow probably right behind him. Elite shooter, just a guy that can create for himself. And now you've got LaMelo Ball, you've got Cooper Kingy Cross, you got Brandon Miller. You just traded away Mark Williams. But you've got a guy, and I think in CKC, that you feel really good about being able to build now and build into the future. And I think there's also the case to be made. Does this Charlotte team, you talk about this with San Antonio, is there a case to be made we move off of LaMelo Ball? We move off of him and say, Brandon Miller, Cooper Kingy Cross, this is a more flawless connection between the two. Try to package them about, now, what's the market for him? Who knows? But Cooper Kingy Cross gives you that optionality as the time on the clock is, in fact, a run-up. So that means the Utah Jazz should be selecting, there it is. And the Jazz are going to take Jalen Snow out of UCLA, the dominant national championship winning Jalen Snow, and the Bruins number 5 to Utah. This is the type of guy that if I'm Utah, I am ecstatic because it was a terrible draft night. And if I'm Charlotte, I'm feeling the same way. But if I'm Utah, this was a terrible draft night. We thought we were going to be picking number 1, number 2, number 3. We get a chance at Cooper Flag, and Jalen Snow falls into your lap. I have said I think Jalen Snow is the best player in the draft. There's people that have disagreed with me. There's others that have agreed with me. Within the league, I think there was a lot of divide on where Jalen Snow is, but what are you getting out of Jalen Snow? You are getting an elite playmaker on the ball. You are getting a guy that can create for himself, who can create for others. He is, from the folks I've talked to around scouting circles, the second best ball handler in this class behind Cooper Kingy Cross. So you're getting a dude that can just walk in, is going to be a bucket, who can get things rolling. And this is a Utah team that needs something. You need something to build around, and Lauri Markkanen had been that guy. Utah, with the addition of Austin Ainge, with Danny Ainge making some swings, this is a move by the Utah Jazz to really say, we don't want to be mediocre any longer. We want to be competent. We want to be taking a step forward, and Jalen Snow is going to bring that to you. I mean, we're seeing folks talk about, okay, he's the next Tyrese Halliburton. I'll tell you what, he's a better player. He's a better athlete than Tyrese Halliburton. He's as good of an intangibles player as there is in this draft class. So for him to get that is absolutely massive, which sets up a big question. Washington at 6. There's a lot of big names on the board still. Jamison Johnson, Marion Sherwood, and where does he end up? I will say, though, this is kind of where the draft starts falling into the second tier. All SWBA in the top 5 as we get the chime. Number 6, and that's going to be Caden Shipp out of Gonzaga. The Washington Wizards add a very, very talented Caden Shipp. Really good guard, can play off guard, and I think you look at this team, you just gave up and you moved off of Jordan Poole. If I'm Washington, I love this pick because Caden Shipp's clear the floor. Clear the floor for Caden Shipp. You've got Alex Sarr in there from last season. You've got a couple of Bilal Coulibaly, who can really be a nice pick for you. But again, I think this is where the draft starts becoming all-star caliber. Top 5 was all SWBA. This is now all-star level. As I'll tell you what, it's getting a little toasty in here. I thought it was going to be cold, but this has been heating up. So give me 1 second. All right, there we go. Now we're ready to rock and roll again. Okay, so Caden Shipp, you're into that all-star level, but what are you getting with him? Versatile defender, can play make with the ball in his hands. He can go out there and can get the ball going for others. Really reliable shooter, and he's a guy that had to do it on his own in Gonzaga. The former number 1 recruit in his class, and he really took a Gonzaga team that didn't have a lot of other pieces around him pretty darn far. And so if I'm Washington, I'm feeling great considering a couple days ago, you're looking at this draft and you're saying, man, what are we ending up with? And there was the hope Cooper King across falls. I like this one as the minute is up and we've got the pick in from the New Orleans Pelicans who have made some questionable decisions. So a lot riding on this number 7 overall pick for the Pelicans. That pick is in, and that is going to be DJ Wagner out of Arkansas. A huge pickup. So Pelicans, you're rolling the dice on that unprotected first-round pick next season. I'll tell you what, adding DJ Wagner is a good way to go. What are you getting out of Wagner? You're getting a playmaker with the ball in his hands. You're getting a guy that can create for himself. Really, really good shooter from deep. A reliable defender. He's not a great defender, but he's not terrible. He kind of trends to me in that Tyrese Halliburton range. A guy that can shoot the ball, who can get the ball rolling, but he's not really elite in the shooter standpoint. Very, very intelligent basketball player. Spent quite a bit of time. He might be, though, the best athlete in this class. And if that's what you're getting in New Orleans, you're getting a great athlete next to a guy like, why am I blanking on his name, but I can see his face, their 3-and-D shooter. And, of course, if you've got Zion Williamson hanging around. I like this pick. I also think it's the best player available. Considering who went above DJ Wagner, I think this is a really big swing on what you can make out of what's left, because I don't know that the guys behind him are necessarily there. The next team up, though, is the Brooklyn Nets. First of 5. We expect them to take all 5. That pick is in, and we'll be very interested to see where they start off this approach. A team that is building from scratch, seem to be kind of building pieces to try to contend around a trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That pick is in, and that is going to be Mackenzie Mbako out of Indiana. So the Indiana Hoosiers are sending Mackenzie Mbako to the Brooklyn Nets with the 8th overall pick. Mbako, a guy that very high from a lot of folks when he came out of college, kind of maybe got lost a little bit in the Indiana scene. But the Nets get a guy. I'll be curious to know if this is where they start their approach. Are they looking for a team? I've been talking for like 12 minutes straight here. Are they going to be starting to try to build a starting 5 with this 5-man group that they're bringing in, or are they trying to build up at any specific position? Clearly, this pick is kind of going not over super well. Some people are in love with it. Some people are not. What are we seeing, though? We're seeing right now no Jamison Johnson off the board. No Lamarian Sherwood off the board. Those were the 2 big names. No Glory Tate, surprisingly, off the board. A lot of big names. This is where I think you would start to see them as the pick coming in for the Toronto Raptors up next at number 9. This is where we probably should start seeing some of those guys roll in. But the Brooklyn Nets starting their first of 5 draft picks. Number 9 is in for the Toronto Raptors, and that is going to be Quincy Henderson out of Alabama, the 6'5" forward that do everything forward for the Crimson Tide a season ago in their trip to the Quad. This is a big swing. This is a big swing from the Toronto Raptors. I think there was better players on the board. Chief among them, I would say, is Glory Tate. I'm very surprised that Glory Tate is still on the board here at number 8, or rather number 9 for the Raptors here. We're still seeing Lamarian Sherwood fall. We're still seeing Jamison Johnson fall. Those are some pretty big names, and those are names that I think a lot of people expected to be gone in this top 10. But they're swinging for a defensive guy. I don't know that that's bad, because if you look at this group, you've got Brandon Ingram, you've got Scotty Barnes. You need somebody to hold down the perimeter defense, and it's not going to be Emmanuel Quickley. So if I'm Toronto, I know what I'm getting out of Quincy Henderson, but I feel like Gerald Carroll would make a lot of sense for them. Glory Tate, like I said, I think Glory Tate right now is the best player still available on the floor. But to see Quincy Henderson, this is a big swing for a team that's trying to move up the ranks in a pretty mediocre Eastern Conference. Number 10, we go, the Phoenix Suns, and they're going to be taking Gerald Carroll out of UCLA, the second coming of Klay Thompson. Carroll is a dimer. I mean, this is a great pick. This is a great pick for the Suns. They need somebody to be able to score the basketball. I don't know if Jalen Green's going to be there for the long term. I don't know if you're going to be, you go out and you get Mark Williams. You're trying to get younger. But to me, Gerald Carroll makes a lot of sense. You need somebody that can create and space the floor. Now, Carroll is not an on-ball creator, but he is probably the second best shooter in this draft class, behind only Trey Turner. He is extremely dynamic from deep. He brings a lot of great things to the floor. Really solid and stout on-ball defender. So your traditional 3-and-D wing is what the Phoenix Suns are getting. Now, you'll need to find a way to take the ball out of Devin Booker's hands. I think he's better as a 2-guard, as the pick is in for 11. But it's still a good move there, I think, from the Phoenix Suns. So where are we going to see Jamison Johnson, Lamarian Sherwood, Glory Tate? The slide for all three of them continues. The Memphis Grizzlies have put in their pick, though, at number 11. We're waiting for that one to come in. Here it is. And it is going to be Jamison Johnson. So the slide for JJ comes to a close at number 11. He is going to be the first center off the board. And the Memphis Grizzlies, after giving up on Desmond Bane, add in Jamison Johnson. This is a really nice pick, I think. You've got a guy that can play the 5, who can be a starting center, maybe not a contending and a championship-winning center next season, but you are getting a dude that can play in the post. He's got a very traditional game. But he's also got a little bit of a touch from outside. And you've got a 3-and-D center, 3-and-D center, which is, I guess, kind of oxymoron. But Jaren Jackson Jr. can be that guy. He can shoot the ball really well from 3, but he needed somebody next to him who can rebound. Jamison Johnson can do that. Can play defense. Jamison Johnson can do that. And now you've added a little bit of a tweak to this offensive game with Jamison Johnson on the offensive side. He can go inside the paint. He can be dynamic inside in a way that I think not many other bigs in this class can do. A lot of these bigs, it's just not a high upside center class. But Jamison Johnson, he's the first one. They needed to make a cost move. They got the cost move. This is a pick that, again, they traded up to get, as I'm trying to check what that deal was. So they moved the number 16 pick to Portland, a first-round pick in a couple years, one of those picks that they got in the Desmond Bane deal, and they move that up and they take Jamison Johnson. I think a lot of people are really going to like that, considering the upside that Jamison Johnson has, considering the fanfare that's going to come around Jamison Johnson. Number 12 is in. It's the Chicago Bulls, and they're going to be taking Carl Holmes out of Houston. Number 12, the slide continues. Still no Lamarian Sherwood. Still no Glory Tate, but the Chicago Bulls are getting Carl Holmes. What are they getting in Carl Holmes? Good shot creator. Good interior post offensive player. I think he's a stout defender, but what he's going to do is he's just kind of does a lot of things right, Carl Holmes does. It's been a really interesting decision seasons for the Houston Cougars. But this feels like a swing, man. This feels like a swing considering some of the pieces still on the board. We've talked about Lamarian Sherwood. I'll say what I said about Lamarian Sherwood, and I'll stand by it. But this is kind of the range where Sherwood kind of makes a lot of sense. Dominant inside presence, even if there are a couple warts on that face. But to me, Glory Tate still being on the board here at number 12 and not being taken is a real shock, because you're Chicago, you don't got anything tied down as the pick is in for the New Orleans Pelicans at 13. You got to do something. I don't know that Carl Holmes is the right guy. All right, so the Pelicans pick is in, and that's going to be Miami's Jermaine McElmore, the national champion 2 seasons ago, is headed to NOLA. It's a big swing. It's a big swing by the Pelicans, a team that's got DeJounte Murray, right? Brandon Ingram's gone. You just drafted DJ Wagner. And you've got Zion Williamson. this is... You gave up a first-round pick next season to get Jermaine McLemore. And this is not to say Jermaine McLemore can't be a great player at the next level. He does a lot of things that you would look at and say, we really like this. Just trying to pull up his scouting report for y'all as we were waiting for the next pick. So what does he do right? Well, he's a really talented inside presence. He plays with a high motor. He's an exceptionally intelligent basketball player. But the knock on Jermaine McLemore is he doesn't really do anything great. And I think if you're picking in the mid-first round, I want a guy that I can look at and say, at least he does this really freaking well. I don't know that Jermaine McLemore does that. But you now got DJ Wagner, you got McLemore. It's a decent couple of pieces to look at as the pick is coming in here for the San Antonio Spurs at number 14. And that's going to be Donald Ifedi out of Minnesota. The San Antonio Spurs have added Donald Ifedi. Here's the thing with Ifedi. Latest, when he went into the scouting combine, 6'8", no shoes on. This is a guy that has really blossomed. Hyper athletic, maybe the most athletic player in this class. He's at least in the conversation. Exceptionally quick, and he's a hound dog on the defensive end. So now if you're San Antonio, you've got a 6'8" Donald Ifedi to build around. You've got Dylan Harper, who you just added. You've got De'Aaron Fox. I'll tell you what, the Western Conference is really deep, but I love this pick from the San Antonio Spurs. I love the decision by the Spurs to say, we're going to get all the on-ball creators we can get. There's some flaws to his game. He's going to need to become a better scorer. He's going to have to shoot the ball better to be on the floor. But there's a runway for the Spurs team, and they missed out on Kevin Durant, which is probably a good thing, that they sit there and say, hey, we like where we're at, and now we just got another great piece at number 14. The defending champions, number 15, Oklahoma City Thunder, their pick is in. We're waiting for that podium visit to be made by Commissioner Adam Silver as the Thunder, fresh off of their first ever championship. Here it is, and that's where the slide for Glory Tate comes to an end. Glory Tate headed to the Oklahoma City Thunder. To me, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer from the Thunder. What do you need? Well, you know that eventually you're going to have to replace Lou Dort. Probably going to have to maybe replace Kason Wallace. You need another wing. And what is this team's calling card? Is switchable wing defenders. With Glory Tate in the mix, you're adding that to the portfolio. What does Glory Tate do? Great on-ball creator. He can create for himself with the basketball. He's not a great athlete. He's not a great defender. But I think you have to like him and his frame coming in at 6'5", 220. If he can be a Lou Dort light and just beat up on the other guys, I think you're getting a winner here. Now, there's not a lot of shots to go around in Oklahoma City, right? You've got Jalen Williams, you got J-Dub, you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but with Glory Tate in the fold, this is a guy I could see as being a really good sixth man, and we can just burn out the minutes with J-Dub, with SGA. We can put a stop to some of the minutes for either of those two guys, right? So we're not burning them out throughout the regular season. And Glory Tate, to me, who I think was a top 10 pick, and you're getting him at number 15. The rich get richer as the number 16 pick comes in. And that's going to be the Portland Trailblazers taking Donta Walker out of Georgia Tech. Let's grab a slug of water here. This is an interesting one. Donta Walker kind of came out of nowhere. He wasn't a guy that I thought was exceptionally high on many people's lists. And he's kind of a throwback. But at the combine, he measured in at 6'6", and that's not normally the recipe for a lottery pick, especially a lottery pick forward. What does he do well? He can shoot the ball. He can do a lot of great things with the basketball in his hands. He's a pretty stout defender, and so if you're Portland, you're looking at your roster, and you're saying, okay, we've got to find a way to keep building around the pieces that we've got. Right? You've got a number of really great pieces in the offensive backcourt. If you're the Portland Trailblazers, you're a team that you really need to see what else can we get out of Shady Sharp. Is Scoot Henderson's season a year ago, is that for real? You probably are moving on from Ayton. You're already moved on from Anthony Simons. Donta Walker, 3-4 year player at the next level or at the previous level. This is a really big swing for Portland. but I don't know there's many big swings left on the board, right? And you're getting to kind of do everything forward in Donta Walker that I just don't think was in existence anywhere else. But the slide continues for the Marion Sherwood as the pick comes in at number 17. That's the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they're going to take Pooh Lewis, the senior guard out of Louisville. Huge pickup here for the Minnesota Timberwolves. What was the big problem? I should stop saying huge pickup. All of these are freaking pickups. What was the problem last season for the Minnesota Timberwolves? They had nobody who could create with the basketball, right? And now it is a bold take, especially at number 17, to assume a guy is going to come in and be an on-ball creator for you. But with a team that's trying to build around Anthony Edwards, I actually think Pooh Lewis is a great fit. Played 4 years, great senior season with the Cardinals, hyper-athletic point guard with the ball in his hands, can get downhill. This might take a couple seasons for Pooh Lewis to come together, but I think it's a really, really great swing here for the Timberwolves, who need to get cheap talent, and they need to get young talent. And Pooh Lewis is both of those things, especially at number 17. So he had a comeback season. This was not a guy that was on many people's draft boards coming into the year as the Utah Jazz approached the pick to be in. But Pooh Lewis, he gets his way to Minnesota. I really like the swing, even if it might be a couple seasons before it actualizes. And at 18, there it is. Lamarian Sherwood to the Utah Jazz with the 18th pick. The slide from potential top 5 pick for the 23-year-old, the oldest player in this class. Lamarian Sherwood ends up with the Utah Jazz. I am not in love with this pick, and it's not because of Lamarian Sherwood. I am not in love with this pick because this doesn't make sense in Utah. You took Jalen Snow, which I love. Yet you have Walker Kessler, one of the best young centers in the SWBA, already on your team. I don't know that Lamarian Sherwood is better than Walker Kessler, who's an elite defender. There's some guys on this board still sitting there, guys like Nat Hawkins, who I thought would have made a lot more sense. Guys like Bam Wallace, he's a guy. Bam Wallace, he's sliding. I thought he was a lottery pick. You could have had him. Jeez, I'm crow. We're sneezing on camera. You could have. I must be allergic to that pick because there's just other options out there, and there's going to be a lot of love for this among the fan base. But I don't know that Lamarian Sherwood is the right pick for this roster. Big swing, but you got an offensive option inside. I'll give you that. But now this pick gets kind of clunky with Walker Kessler in there. I don't know. I feel very torn on this with what they've done. But that doesn't really matter because it does matter, but the Brooklyn Nets are putting in pick number 2. And that's going to be Ireland Early out of New Mexico. So Brooklyn, with their first 2 of 5 picks, have taken Mackenzie Mbako, a switchable, rangy wing, and now they've taken Ireland Early with the number 19 pick. This is huge. I really like this. Ireland Early, I've always been very high on Ireland Early. I don't think I'm shocking anybody by that one, but a really stout shooter, a guy who can stretch the floor. You're a Brooklyn team that really doesn't have anything worth holding on to outside of Cam Thomas, and Cam Thomas I actually think is probably going to be out the door. Not Cam Thomas, I'm sorry, Cameron Johnson, who's probably going to be out the door sometime, could be out the door, I should say, sometime this summer. But Ireland Early is a guy that can shoot the ball really well. He's going to space the floor. You just brought in Mackenzie Mbako, who's this downhill attacking wing. Ireland Early was a guy, there was a lot of talking about him, right? Where are they going to go? He ends up coming here and moves into lottery range. People thought he should be going to Kentucky to ride the bench. Instead, he goes to New Mexico and dominates, and really has a great season a year ago, winning the NIT, and then in this past season, he had a pretty solid year as well. You're getting a good shooter, and now Brooklyn with a pair of wings. This kind of seems like maybe Cam Thomas's days are numbered, but also I think this is a Brooklyn team as they've taken 2 of their 5. There's a lot of optionality and switchability with this roster that didn't quite exist before, as the number 20 pick is on the board, and that's Miami Heat, and they're going to be taking Braylon Burleson out of Xavier. I am not in love with this pick here from the Miami Heat. A guy that's, kind of the stock rose quite a bit when he was with Xavier making that deep run to the quad. But he's a guy that, what is he going to be sitting on? It's going to be defense and intangibles, and that's kind of a Heat culture guy. But it's not a guy that's going to jump off the page and do a lot of things offensively. Maybe you don't need that. He's a decent jump shooter, but his main calling card is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. I think the big question mark is going to be at 6'6", 197. Can he stay on the floor at the next level? And look, we're seeing a lot of animosity right now. I saw the hottest take that Utah won the draft. They might have won the draft, but it's not because they took Lamarian Sherwood. Now we've got some boos coming in. We've got some quoting garbage picks, and then we got some folks that are in love with it. I mean, if that doesn't perfectly encapsulate the SWBA draft, folks, I don't quite know what does, because that's the duality of pick number 20. It's also just like level set as we get to number 21. A lot of these guys probably not seeing the floor in their first year. But the Washington Wizards at number 21, they're going to be taking Nat Hawkins at a UNLV. That is a swing and a surprising fall from Nat Hawkins, who had a really good season for UNLV. A guy that probably in some people's minds deserved to be in the lottery. I don't know if I would quite go that far. He does a lot of things really well. He's one of the most athletic forwards in the league, or coming into the class. He's one of the strongest forwards. And now Washington came in tonight saying, man, we're going to miss out on Cooper Flagg. We're going to miss out on Jalen Snow, Trey Turner, because none of them are going to fall to us at number 6. We're not going to get the hometown guy. And you're going to walk away with Caden Shipp and Nat Hawkins. Now, Nat Hawkins is going to have to figure himself out in terms of being a shooter, because he's just doesn't profile as one. It's going to be interesting if Alex Sarr can become one. But I kind of like what Washington is doing with this young group. Big swing, but also a swing for a guy that many people probably thought should be going 5, 10, 15 pick. No, maybe not 15, but at least 10 picks earlier than this at 21. All right, 22 is in. The Brooklyn Nets picking for the third time, and they've got 3 of the next week, 7 picks here. And they're going to be taking Johnny Ball Game Baldwin out of Virginia. The Brooklyn Nets, adding to their repertoire of forwards, are getting Johnny Baldwin, the guy that set a prep record when he was in high school for scoring. And Baldwin goes to the Brooklyn Nets. I like this pick. I really do, because this is a Brooklyn team. They've clearly got an identity. They're saying, we're going to go out and we're going to get as many dudes that play the wing that we can possibly get. What does Johnny Baldwin bring to the floor? Well, he can score inside, can't shoot it from outside. He's not a shooter. He's listed as a forward, but he feels more of like a small ball 5. Honestly, I'll tell you what, this could be a summer where you move off of Nick Claxton, where you move off of Cam Thomas, and you say, screw it. We're going to start all these rookies. We're going to see what's going on. And we're just going to go nuts. And it might not be pretty, but we've got 3 guys. We got 2 more to go. We're going to see what happens. If some of these guys hit, if one of these guys hits, then we're going to be happy. There's some crashing out, though, apparently going on. Some Nets fans not super stoked with these picks. Some question marks on some previous picks as we're waiting on number 23 to come in. That'll be Atlanta. There it is. And the Atlanta Hawks are going to take Richard Pozarski at number 23. The Michigan senior coming in at number 23. Atlanta got this pick again by moving back 10 spots. And they use that. So now you want to, look, it's never going to rise to the level of the Trae Young and Luka Doncic conversation, but the Jermaine McElmore and Richard Pozarski plus whoever the Pelicans use on their first-round pick next season. Bit of a swing. I was never really that high on Richard Pozarski. I think some people thought he could have been a top 5 pick. I thought that was a little bit chaotic. He can shoot the ball at times. He's a traditional, just give me the rock inside and let me go to work. He is not a guy that I think has a ton of upside. And Atlanta probably isn't looking for guys with a lot of upside. And again, at 23, you're probably not going to find a lot of guys with a ton of upside. This feels like I wouldn't call it a big swing because I don't know what you're swinging at number 23. But Pizarski's, this isn't a pick I'm writing home about, I guess is what I'm talking about. This isn't a pick that I love as 24 is coming in, and that's going to be the Sacramento Kings. They just traded into this spot, and they're getting Travion Novick out of Virginia Tech. The talented senior forward, he ends up with the Sacramento Kings. I like the player. I don't think I like the pick. Novick is a straight downhill attacker. And this is the same thing about the Utah Jazz. Utah got Lamarian Sherwood at 18. I think that's great value for Lamarian Sherwood. But if you look at that roster, it doesn't really help you. And basketball is the rare sport where you kind of throw roster fit out the door. But at the same time, you kind of build a roster with a specific approach in mind. And you had some pieces already in place in Utah. Sacramento, Novick is a guy that needs the ball in the paint. And Domantas Sabonis already chased out Tyrese Halliburton because he came in for him. Chased out De'Aaron Fox. And now you got Travion Novick, who's a downhill threat, but he needs a basketball and he needs to be in the paint. This doesn't make a lot of sense for the roster. I love the player, but I do not like this pick for the roster as number 25 comes in, and that's going to be the Orlando Magic as we wait for the commissioner to head to the stand. He does. And the Orlando Magic are going to be taking Dwan Epps, the big man, out of Alabama. Fascinating. Guys, we know that Bam Wallace is on the floor. He's still on the board right now, right? We're aware of this, and we're aware that we, Orlando, can't shoot the ball at all. That's why we just went in and got Desmond Bane. And Bam Wallace is sitting there, 40% shooter, 6'7". What do we need? We need shooters on the wing so that they can play next to Franz Wagner. They can play next to Paolo Banchero. And what do? We go with Dwan Epps. Again, I don't hate the player, but I don't like the pick. You've got Mo Wagner. You've got Wendell Carter Jr. Orlando. What's the thought process? I would like to know here. There's some really good forwards on the floor. I mean, Brian Vaughn, still available. Kaishan Ship, still available. Madison Miles III, still available. Bam Wallace, still available. And you're getting a paint-bound big man. I don't quite understand this one if I'm the Orlando Magic. A big swing for Desmond Bane. I think that was a hit. This big swing feels like a bit of a miss. At 26, we got back-to-back picks for the Brooklyn Nets, and with 26th, they're taking Bam Wallace. There he is. Bam Wallace out of UNC heading to Brooklyn. So, again, quick recap. Ireland Early, one of the best shooters in the draft class. He's headed to Brooklyn. You've got DJ Wagner, Mackenzie Mbako, one of the better athletic, rangy wings, headed to Brooklyn. You've got Johnny Baldwin, who could be a small ball 5, headed to Brooklyn. And now you're getting Bam Wallace, an elite scorer for UNC, an elite shooter for UNC. I don't think Brooklyn's going to think all 5 of these guys pan out. But the optionality that you have right now between Mackenzie Mbako, Ireland Early, Bam Wallace, you're going to take number 27. They probably could have just taken 2 at once. And then Johnny Baldwin. Those are 4 big names, guys. I'm sorry. I really like those 4 picks. They might not be the best player in the class, but if you're thinking I need to get 2 to 3 SWBA players out of it, those are 2 guys that are giving you a good chance at it as they're coming back to the board here for 27. There's a lot of conversation for this one, and that's going to be Jace Miguez out of Oklahoma. So, no Kaishan Ship. He continues to fall. No Brian Vaughn. He continues to fall. It's going to be Jace Miguez at number 27. A bit of a tweener between the guard and the forward position. Again, the Brooklyn Nets have kind of built a rookie starting 5 out of this group. You want Jason Miguez can be your starting point guard. Okay, we throw Bam Wallace let's throw Ireland Early at the 2 guard. Okay, both those guys are around 6'5". Let's go Bam Wallace at the 3. Mackenzie Mbako at the 4, and then Johnny Baldwin at the 5. What? I'm kind of with this. I see there's some hell no's in the chat. I don't know. I kind of am with this one. You are taking a swing at pretty much every single position in this class. Now, you can sit here and say, oh, they should have taken Brian Vaughn. Maybe. I'm not saying you're wrong on that. You can sit here and say, oh, we should have taken Kaishan Ship. Maybe. I'm not saying you're wrong on that. But the 5 picks that the Brooklyn Nets took in the first round, again, Jace Maguez, Bam Wallace, Johnny Baldwin 2 seasons ago, people would have been nutting themselves if they knew they were getting Johnny Baldwin number 22. Let's just say that. You want to say you don't like Johnny Baldwin, and number 22, I think you would love it. 28, though, that's going to be Floyd Henderson for the Boston Celtics. They get Oklahoma, Florida, or excuse me, forward, not Oklahoma, Florida. I don't even know if that place exists. Oklahoma forward, Floyd Henderson, three-point shooter, can get it done from outside. What does Boston need? They need something to go right. And this is a team that just lost Drew Holiday. You're going to be without, for the entire season, Jason Tatum. And now you're adding Floyd Henderson. Floyd Henderson profiles as a really, really talented shot creator at 6'5". I think he could play nicely next to Derek White. Good three-point shooter. Great on ball. Not a great defender, so you're losing that, but you are adding in a guy offensively who can get it done. And this is a team now that's got some offensive holes, right? Drew Holiday was a guy that created for you quite a bit. Kristaps Porzingis was a guy that created for you quite a bit. Jason Tatum, obviously, a guy that created for you quite a bit. Now, I'm not saying Floyd Henderson can step in and do those things, but in what is probably going to be a gap year for the Boston Celtics, adding Floyd Henderson, to me, makes actually a lot of sense. High upside guy, big 6'5", 220, a dude that can, if he can figure out the intensity of defense, can really be a big swing for you. And look, anyone out there saying, okay, Vetro Rampage, bro, I don't really F with this pick. I'm sorry, but at this point in the draft, 28, you're really not getting, we can go crazy, and sure, maybe Brian Vaughn makes a lot of sense here, but this is a team that has the need for a swing. And at this point in the draft, the chances of you hitting as 29 heads to the board, that's going to be the Charlotte Hornets. There's not a lot of big names left on the board. And at number 29, the Hornets are going to go with Kirby Ordway, the sharpshooter from Iowa State. So the Hornets, between number 29 getting Kirby Ordway, they're adding that into the list with Cooper Kingy-Cross. This is a questionable fit. This feels like a guy that's probably going to come off the bench for this team. I don't hate it. I also don't freaking love it. But, that's kind of what you're getting at 29. So let's talk upside. You've got Kirby Ordway, a guy that can, like we said, really good, reliable shooter for the Iowa State Cyclones last season. Can create a little bit with the basketball, but he's not going to play defense. Not overly strong. Small frame coming in at just 193 pounds and 6'4". So your defense is going to be a big question mark. But if you're looking for a spark plug scorer, I think at number 28, you can kind of get it rolling. We got Rick Blaze in the building, asked for number 13. That was Jermaine McElmore. Just a shout out there. Jameson Johnson went to number 11 to the Memphis Grizzlies. So we're coming up on pick number 30, and then we'll do a quick recap of the entire first round. That's the Los Angeles Clippers. And they're going to be taking, they have gone to the board. Sorry, I was trying to jump the gun, trying to anticipate Adam Silver. I could not do it. Number 30, Malik McNeil, the big man out of Texas Tech, is headed to the Los Angeles Clippers. What does McNeil do? Three-point shooter, can stretch the floor, decent in that range. But this is a stretch to me. I think there's a lot of talent in Malik McNeil, but he's 23 years old. The ceiling kind of feels there. This is a guy you had Ivica Zubac at the 5. Made, I think it was a contender. I can't remember if he made all SWBA or not. It's not a bad pick if you're looking far out, but to me, there's two names still sitting there: Kayshawn Shipp, Brian Vaughn. And I think you can add in Madison Miles III. We've seen no outrage, by the way, for Tyson Simpson. No outrage for Tyson Simpson. The guy that tore his ACL a season ago, training for this SWBA draft. No outrage for Juan Valentine. Not seeing any of that, but we are seeing a lot of outrage for no Keyshawn Shipp or Brian Vaughn. But it's Malik McNeil headed to the Los Angeles Clippers, and that wraps up our first round. So let's recap it all for you. I don't know if our graphics team is going to keep up. They don't really need to, but we'll see if they manage to. Again, first round pick, we're going to take a hiatus. We're not going to broadcast the second round. We will talk all of the second round. Selfless or shameless plug for tomorrow morning. We're talking the second round with Yells on SimWorld today, so you'll get a chance to see all of that. First overall pick, though, was Cooper Flagg going to the Dallas Mavericks. Everybody pretty much knew that was coming. Number 2 is Dylan Harper. That goes to the Spurs as part of a nice little two-man combination that they get in their lottery. Number 3, the Philadelphia 76ers, as we drop something in our hands, is Trey Turner. I really like this pick. I think there's going to be plenty of people that thought otherwise. And number 4, the Charlotte Hornets get Cooper Kingy-Cross, maybe the best player in the draft. Many people would believe it was, at least the best playmaker. The Utah Jazz get the Snowman, and number 5, Jalen Snow, just coming off a national championship. The Wizards at number 6 get Caden Shipp, maybe the first reach, but also in that part of the draft where we lose the All-SWBA upside and more of the All-Star upside. Number 7 is DJ Wagner out of Arkansas. He goes to the Pelicans. First of 5 picks for the Brooklyn Nets is Mackenzie Mbako. He goes at number 8. 5 guys that probably can play any of the 5 positions. At number 9, the Toronto Raptors take Quincy Henderson. Really nice forward out of Alabama, defensive stalwart. That's what he's going to be asked to do for the Toronto Raptors. And number 10, it's LeGerald Carroll, the second best shooter in this class, and this is a guy that probably plenty of people are going to expect to shoot 44% or something like that. He goes to the Phoenix Suns. Jamison Johnson, his mini slide, although looking ahead of Jamison Johnson, people are going to say, hey, it's a slide. It's not a slide. I mean, could he have gone to get ahead of Quincy Henderson? Sure, but head-to-head against the top 10 picks in this draft, I don't know that Jamison Johnson necessarily wins many of those battles. He ends up at number 11. Number 12 is Carl Holmes. He goes to the Chicago Bulls. I think that's maybe a reach. Carl Holmes doesn't do a lot of things great. Does quite a few things good, but nothing great. The New Orleans Pelicans at number 13 take Jermaine McElmore out of Miami. McElmore had a great season 2 years ago, kind of fell off the map, but I think if you're New Orleans and you say, we get the guy from 2 years ago, you're pretty stoked about that one. The San Antonio Spurs get Donald Lafetti, who, again, measured in at 6'8" in the combine. So he played guard for Minnesota. You see on the screen he was a wing. That's what I would consider him as a wing. 6'8", pound up. Grows 3 inches from his time at Minnesota to now. I mean, if that doesn't just tangent, if that doesn't just sound like a San Antonio Spurs thing, like we drafted this guy and he grew 3 inches, it's like, yep, okay. Victor Wembanyama is going to be 7'9" in the next 2 years. Donald Lafetti will be 7'2", and the rest of the league is screwed. The Spurs, I love this pick. This is maybe one of my favorite picks in this draft. Top picks notwithstanding. Moving on, number 15, defending champions get Glory Tate. Also, a big fan of this pick. This I would consider a slide from Glory Tate. I thought that was a top 10 talent for his offensive creation ability. He heads to Oklahoma City, where the rich get richer with Glory Tate, a former top recruit, now in the Oklahoma City locker room. Donta Walker goes to Portland at number 16, the guy who came out of nowhere for his junior-senior season with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. This just feels like a Portland pick. I don't know what it is. It's this throwback forward who'd been a power forward in the 2010s, and you'd just be like, yeah, that's a dog right there. That's Donta Walker, and he's going to Portland. The Jailblazers, they may not from illegal purposes, but maybe from a personality purposes, could be back. 17, that's going to be Pooh Lewis to Minnesota. I am in love with this pick. I am in love with this pick. I loved what Pooh Lewis did for the Louisville Cardinals. I know Coach Skinny is going nuts. I know he's not coaching the Louisville Cardinals, but I'm sure he is happy for his former ambassadee, something like that. I don't know what it technically is. But Pooh Lewis to Minnesota. They needed guard play, especially with the aging Mike Conley. They got it. Lamarian Sherwood slides all the way to number 18 with the Utah Jazz. I like the player. I like the player a lot for this value. I didn't think he was a top 10 pick. I don't think he was number 18. But number 18 for the Utah Jazz, a lot of question marks. A lot of question marks about how that's going to fit next to Walker Kessler. We'll see how that plays out. Number 19, Brooklyn, their second pick. That's Ireland Early. Another one. Look, I think I've got to tell. And if I'm going to like a guy, it's going to be a dude that can shoot the lights out, and that plays some defense. And guess who does that? Ireland freaking early. And he's going to Brooklyn. He's next to Mackenzie Mbako as starting. I mean, this is going to be like the Fab Five in Brooklyn just with rookies, and they might get their tails beat off, but this might be a good basketball team in 2 seasons. Number 20, Braylon Burleson. I think there's going to be a lot of people scratching their heads on this one. What is it? A smart guy that can play defense. And if that doesn't scream South Beach, well, it doesn't seem South screams some Miami Heat culture. So run the Heat culture jerseys back. That's what Braylon Burleson is stamped with. He's going number 20. Number 21, Nat Hawkins to the Wizards. So the Wizards get Caden Shipp and Nat Hawkins. I like this pick. Nat Hawkins going in there at 21. Number 22 is Brooklyn Nets' 3rd pick, and that's Johnny Baldwin. Again, I'm telling you people, if we did this draft 2 seasons ago and you said Johnny Baldwin's fallen to number 22, you'd sit here and say, wow, that's a steal. Because Johnny Baldwin is a dog. He goes 22, and we got people being concerned about it. And I just want to say, remember what you thought about this guy when he was cooking it up in New England with the New England Stars, dropping 43 on people's heads. That's what he does. He went to a terrible Virginia situation that just kind of, his head coach retires out from under him. They have the terrible season 2 years ago where they refused to play either Johnny Baldwin or Tyson Simpson. Tyson Simpson, who's still on the board, right? He'll be a 2nd-round pick. And Johnny Baldwin goes right there. Man, we should be loving this. Remember what you thought about Baldwin because he was that type of guy. 23rd, we shouldn't be loving this. That's Richard Pizarski to the Atlanta Hawks. I have never been a big fan of Richard Pizarski's game. It just screams G League to me, but he ends up at number 23 with the Hawks. The Kings at number 24, Travion Novick. Like the player, said this, don't like the pick. Really talented downhill player. I don't know where he's going to get the opportunity to score with Domantas Sabonis and Zach LaVine, hogging the basketball. The Chicago Bulls West version, 24. 25, Dwan Epps, Orlando Magic. Questionable move, a team that needed more shooting, and instead they decided to go with a big man. That does not make a ton of sense to me. 26 and 27, back-to-back picks for the Nets. The first one is Bam Wallace. Again, love this. This is a guy I had a lottery grade on. A lot of people did. 40% three-point shooter, was the primary scorer for a really good North Carolina squad. Him falling all the way to 26, I think Brooklyn has to be rejoicing. And then they round out their picks at number 27, where they take Jace Maguez. Again, a guy, remember back to his prep days. This was a guy that came out, was absolutely torching with the Texas Lone Stars, Lone Star Basketball Club. There we go. Just a baller with the basketball in his hands. He's going to be able to bring that to Brooklyn. 28, Floyd Henderson to the Boston Celtics. Great on-ball creator. That, I think, is something that the Boston Celtics need. 29 and 30, these I feel like are second-round picks on guys. Kirby Ordway goes to the Charlotte Hornets. Good three-point shooter. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on the floor with that roster. And then Malik McNeil with the Los Angeles Clippers at number 30 to round out the top 30 picks. And, oh, by the way, as we were going with that roundup before y'all take out of here, we have 2 second-round picks to report. The first one, number 31, the Minnesota Timberwolves take Kaishan Shipp. The fall ends for Shipp. He ends at number 31 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then at number 32, Brian Vaughn to the Boston Celtics. So no graphics. These just came through. Kaishan Shipp to Minnesota and Brian Vaughn to the Boston Celtics. That is our show. We appreciate you all tuning in for a little surprise live draft. That's what I'm gonna end you on, is those 2 picks as Charlotte gets ready to pick out here in the second round. Appreciate y'all tuning in here on a special edition of the Marsh Pod. I know the Marsh Pod's gone away. There's some things eventually coming back with it, but I appreciate you all tuning in on Monday through Friday with SimWorld Today. We're going to talk all of this. We'll recap the second round with Yells in the morning. We'll recap the first round picks that stood out. Spoiler alert, A+ grade for the Brooklyn Nets. It's an A+ and then a D grade for the Utah Jazz for me for their draft. Love Jalen Snow. Would not have done Lamarian Sherwood, but they did that. That's our show. We're going to be back here tomorrow morning here on SimWorld TV, where we'll be talking all of that on SimWorld Today. I appreciate you tuning in. I need some water, and I need to stop talking, because all I've been doing that is for the last 45 minutes, and I don't think I can talk anymore. So, appreciate you tuning in here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.